Innuendo, Book 5 of the Todd Mills Mystery Series. Author, R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher, Scribble Pub Press, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 35. On his way back to his condo, Todd stopped at a gas station and bought 2 glass bottles of mineral water. One he drank down immediately, the other he pressed against his temple. The chilled, sweaty glass sending a rush of relief through his aching head. He took Interstate 94, crossing the Mississippi, which acted something like a Berlin Wall, dividing one metropolitan area into 2 capriciously distinct cities that, unlike Berlin, had never possessed any desire to be united. No, old and proud St. Paul wanted nothing to do with its flighty neighbor, and Minneapolis, feeling itself far more dynamic and hip, all but ignored its stodgy sister. It was approaching 7 by the time Todd parked his car and rode the elevator up to his apartment. He let himself in, finally uncapped the second bottle of mineral water, and sitting on his leather couch, drank it down. A few minutes later, he was roused by girlfriend, who leaped on his lap, purring and rubbing against him as if he were the greatest of gods. Immediately, Todd understood that, nope, she wasn't all full of sympathy and love. The slut was hungry. Going into the kitchen, Todd opened a can of cat food and fed girlfriend, who was swirling about his feet in a Pavlovian frenzy. He then glanced across the kitchen counter and saw the blinking red light of his answering machine. There were 2 messages, as he could have guessed. The first was from the 6 o'clock producer, Nan. "Todd, where the hell are you? It's almost 6. You better get your butt in here in the next 2 seconds or... He knew there was going to be hell to pay. He just didn't want to hear about it now, and he fast-forwarded it to the second message, which was from Rawlins, as he also could have guessed. Of course, Todd needed to call him back, he thought as he glanced at the clock on his stove and saw that it was a couple of minutes after 7. Picking up the phone, he started to dial, but then stopped. He put his hand to his forehead, but the number that was always there had apparently been beaten out of him. He quickly pulled open a drawer and pulled out his phone list, which was scribbled on a yellow legal pad, and saw the number he thought he'd never forget. When he dialed it, though, it rang busy. He waited no more than 5 seconds and tried again. Damn, he thought. He was never going to make it to Chase's by 7:30. Frustrated, Todd glanced again at the list, saw Rollins' number down at CID, and called there. Reaching Rollins' voicemail, Todd stumbled over his thoughts as he said, "Hey, Rollins, it's me, Todd. I'm okay. I think it's a long story. I'll tell you later. But obviously we have a lot of things to talk about. Listen, I've got to meet someone in a few minutes. I'll call you back later," shaking his head as he hung up. Todd realized he was in no shape to talk on the phone, let alone go to Tim Chase's. Hoping a shower would help, he went straight to his bedroom, where he stripped, and then headed for the bathroom. Taking 2 aspirin, he chased the pills down with water from the tap, and next turned on the shower, full blast, and climbed in. Thank God, he thought, as the water pounded and massaged his head and body for the seemingly unlimited amount of hot water this building could produce. A half hour later, he was driving along Mount Curve Avenue, and if he wasn't completely revived, then he was at least coherent, looking as good as he could on this particular night. He wore black jeans, a blue shirt, and his leather coat, but who was he hoping to impress? And what exactly was he hoping would happen tonight? Recalling the strong embrace and the gentle kisses from the night before, Todd knew damn well. As he rounded a bend and approached the house, he saw that the street was lined with cars, expensive ones too. From Mercedes to Cadillacs to Range Rovers. Could Tim Chase and Gwen Owens be having a party? Might this not be the intimate evening that Todd had envisioned? Taking the first space, Todd pulled over and parked. Up ahead on the right, he saw well-heeled people streaming into a massive Tudor house. One of Tim Chase's neighbors was evidently having quite the bash. But no, Todd told himself as he climbed out of his truck, a roll in the hay with Tim Chase wasn't impossible. It was outrageously impossible. Tim Chase wasn't simply one of the most famous actors in the world. He was also gorgeous and rich, if in fact he was gay. After all, he could have been playing with Todd last night. Rehearsing, as he said. He could have the most beautiful of queer men. So why in the world would he want Todd, who was not only in his 40s and 8 or 9 years older than him, but also not a stunning drop-dead Calvin Klein beauty? There was no way. Perhaps Todd was soon going to learn the secrets of Tim Chase's personal life, but He realized there was no way in hell they were going to have sex. It just wasn't going to happen. Besides, there was Rawlins. Or was there? It seemed quite obvious that Rawlins was not only unable to maintain a monogamous relationship, but that he had also broken their compromise agreement of pledging to tell the truth. So now what? There was nothing else, least of all, no other laws or ceremonies binding them. So if Todd couldn't count on Rawlins for the simple truth, then did he really want him at all? As he was buzzed through the gate and started up the front walk, Todd realized once again that what he wanted was not a lover whom he could trust in some suburban sense, but someone who couldn't help but be totally honest. Exactly. In a restless world like this one, Todd wanted something stable. A rock. Someone he could count on. The sad thing was that now it was going to be so very, very tough to get back to the beginning. To what they had before. Love, lust, passion. That was one side of a relationship. The other was trust, honesty, and respect. The three of which operated in a delicate mistress balance and that were once violated, all but impossible to reset. Perhaps time could both repair and restart what Todd and Rawlins had so recently had, but as he approached the huge front door, Todd checked his watch, saw that he was almost 15 minutes overdue. Perhaps that was nothing by the standards of the coast, but in the Midwest, particularly Minnesota, that was significant. Well, thought Todd, he was just glad to be here. As he climbed the first of 3 steps, the door swung open. And there she stood, in tight, worn blue jeans and a baggy white t-shirt. Mrs. Tim Chase, better known throughout the world, of course, as Gwen Owens. She wore her beauty as she wore her clothes with casual ease, and she looked right into Todd's eyes and smiled at him as if they were old friends. "Hi, Todd. Come on in." "Hi," he said, still feeling nothing short of sheepish for last night's escapades with her husband. "Sorry, I'm a few minutes late." "Oh, don't be silly. You're not all late. Tim's in the living room. He's been on the phone with his attorney for the last 40 minutes. I think he spends half his time either filing a lawsuit or defending himself against one." "Really?" replied Todd as he passed through the vestibule and into the huge entry hall. "Yeah," continued Gwen, her walk and manner entirely easy. "Now I think he's trying to take some photographer to court. Some guy who actually blocked him as he was pulling out of a parking space. Trapped him so he couldn't move, which really pissed him off. Apparently the photographer was going after a picture of Tim and some guy." Todd's reporter ears perked up. Some guy like who?" "Anyway, you can just go in. He'll be off in a minute." Gwen shut the inner door, then turned and started for the huge staircase at the far end of the entry hall. "Nice to see you. Take care." "You're not joining us?" he asked with feigned innocence. "Me? No," she replied with a coy smile as if to say, "Who are you trying to kid? Maggie and I are going out for a while." What the hell, wondered Todd, did that mean? From the wood-paneled entry hall, which in itself was as big as a ballroom, Todd headed left into the living room. Tim Chase sat on the large couch, facing the fireplace, a telephone to his ear. Glancing over, he raised one hand in a big familiar hello. "Okay, Art, that's cool. Yeah, you do that. Get it all written up and FedEx it. I'll take a look at it right away, just as soon as it gets here. Listen, I gotta go. A friend just stopped by for dinner." Standing there on the edge of the room, still wearing his black leather coat, Todd couldn't help but take note. A friend? He didn't much feel like one. In fact, for some reason, he felt almost uncomfortable, and he realized certainly more nervous than he had yesterday. Chase paused as his attorney obviously said something, then added, "Yeah, you too, and say hi to Leslie." He hung up, dropping the receiver into the base, then puffed up his cheeks and exhaled all at once. A half-second later, he turned to Todd, flashing that grin that could light up a city. "My life is so fucking complicated. I can't believe it." As he placed the phone to a side table, he said, "I can't use a cordless phone or even a cellular, at least not for anything serious. I've had people try to listen in to my conversations. I mean, they did it to Prince Charles. Listened while he supposedly told Camilla, what's her face, that he wanted to come back as a Tampax for her use. Doesn't sound very appealing to me. Straight people, what can I say?" Shaking his head and laughing, Chase pushed himself to his feet. "Hey, where are my manners? Let me take your coat." Like his wife's, Tim Chase's good looks were by no means forced or contrived, but rather natural, even casual. In an all-American boyish kind of way, he too wore jeans that were somehow perfectly worn and that fit him like a leather glove. Again, tonight, he sported no shoes, only white socks and a simple shirt, off-white, with a light plaid pattern of black threads. His hair was rich and brown and glossy and perfectly cut, and that smile, that unbelievable smile that seemed so genuine, that seemed to say he was glad Todd was here. Could it be true? As Todd started to lift off his coat, a shot of pain zipped through him, and he flinched and grimaced. He closed his eyes for a moment, realized that he shouldn't have come. "Hey, are you all right?" asked Chase, coming over. "Well, it's been kind of a long day." Chase's smile vanished, and a look of concern washed over him. He reached for Todd's coat, then peered at the side of Todd's head. "Man, what did you do? Fall off a horse?" "Something like that, anyway." "You got a pretty good bruise going on up there." Not hesitating, Chase reached up, gingerly touching Todd's head. As Chase's fingertips skimmed across his skin, Todd grabbed him by the wrist and said, "Ouch!" "Sorry, are you going to be okay?" "Yeah, I think so, but maybe I shouldn't have come. Maybe I... What the hell happened?" Todd wondered if he should get into it, but found himself saying, "I've been covering this murder story. The one about the gay kid who was murdered." His face went blank. "Yeah. Well, I got a call from that kid's father, and..." "You're kidding!" "No. And he asked me to meet him, and we kind of got into a scuffle." "Jesus! You should have called the police." "I tried. His line was busy." Tim looked at Todd with a grin. "What?" "Nothing." Helping Todd off with his coat, he said, "Let me guess, you didn't win." That obvious." "Yep. Now, come on, follow me. I know just what will make you feel better." Without hesitation, Chase wrapped his fingers around Todd's wrist and led him toward a dry bar on the side of the room. As they walked, Todd looked down, saw that the cuff of Tim's shirt was rolled back a couple of times, exposing a meaty forearm covered with a fine grove of dark hair. In his gut, Todd felt something smolder and spark. The bar was a gilded wooden chest with a green marble top, and on it sat a silver ice bucket, cradling a bottle of white wine. Next to that was a plate of artfully arranged food. "Do you like shellfish?" asked Chase. "You're belying your Midwestern roots. I've never heard that question anywhere but here." "Right. This is the land of the tuna fish casserole. Up here, we don't use such fancy words. We call it a hot dish." "Ah, Minnesota. Call it like it is," Chase laughed. "God, I get so sick of the bullshit in California. This place may be a little naive." "The land of the bland, you mean?" "Maybe. But at the same time, it's pretty straightforward. I miss that. I'm so sick of people sucking up to me. I'm so sick of people pretending to be my friends. It's just a fake, so unreal, that sometimes, well, I forget who I am." Todd couldn't resist. "So who are you?" Looking straight at him, Chase said, "What an odd sense I get from you. Don't forget, I'm a reporter, and reporters always have ulterior motives." "Ah, yes, a good point. So, let me remind you, all of this is still off the record." "Agreed." "Agreed," replied Todd, knowing that unless he wanted to be shown to the door, he had no choice. "So, what we have here is a plate of mussels, first grilled outside, then doused with garlic butter and chopped tomatoes." Tim picked up the plate in one hand, 2 wine glasses in the other. "Now, grab that bucket of wine and follow me." "Where are we going?" "To ease your wounds." They made a small train, the two of them, Todd following Tim Chase out of the extravagant living room and then down the enormous entry hall toward the back of the house. Todd presumed they were going to a back porch of some sort, yet Todd couldn't help but be suspect. He asked, "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Be nice to me. Because I like you." No, Todd wasn't going to take this, being baited, and he said, "What the hell does that mean?" "It means that you're sincere and honest. It means that you don't say pate or terrine or flan or even casserole. You say hot dish, and it means that this wonderful kingdom of fame and fortune in which I live is nothing more than a gilded prison." "What are you implying, that you're lonely?" "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm lonely for intelligent company instead of an army of bimbo wannabes." Throwing a curve, Chase added, "I don't want to hang out with a gay man." "Are you taunting me?" Glancing over his shoulder with a smirk, he said, "No, I'm playing a gay man from the Midwest, and I need to do some homework." "Oh, so I'm still research." "As I am to you." "Touch?" At the rear of the hall, they headed not out the rear door, not up the curving staircase to the right, but down the stairs to the left, which descended in a wide curve, carrying the frosted wine in the silver bucket. Todd silently followed after the leading man, taking the low, even steps around and down to the basement. Reaching for a brass plate mounted on a wall of mahogany paneling, Tim hit a bank of light switches, the old-fashioned push-button kind, which he poked one after another. Brass sconces came to life, lighting up a room that was filled with the latest gym equipment, from stair machines to racks of free weights. Todd looked around until he saw a wall of French doors, and beyond them a swimming pool, the one he'd heard about. Yes, not only did it obviously exist, it was beautiful. And it was no concrete tub, not by any means. Tim led the way over, pulled open two of the glass doors, and exposed a robber baron swimming pool. None too large, but completely lined with small, pearly white tiles. From the bottom of the pool, up and around the deck, up the walls and across the ceiling. 4 large brass fixtures mounted on the walls lit the chamber. "Amazing," said Todd. "Isn't it great? It was built when the house was 1901. But this," said Chase, leaning around to a panel and flicking more switches, "was added a few years ago." In an instant, he brought to life the bubbling power of a hot tub, which sat off the far end of the pool and in front of 4 French doors that led outside. "Come on, it'll make you feel great." Todd glanced over at the swirling mass of water, not sure that any of this was really happening. Biting his trepidation and holding his tongue, he continued after Chase, who made his way along the narrow tile deck. When he reached the far end of the pool, Chase put the plate down on a small metal table, then grabbed a couple of mussels and sucked them down. He groaned with pleasure, put down the wine glass, then turned and took the wine from Todd. Pouring them each a glass, he handed one to Todd, then held his up. "Cheers, man." "To your health." Taking a sip, Todd eyed Tim Chase as he took a long, luxuriant drink, and then Todd watched as the other started unbuttoning his shirt. "Don't just stand there," said Chase, pulling his shirt out of his pants. "Come on." "We're really doing this." "Of course." "But I don't have a suit." Chase looked at Todd as if he were crazy. "Well, neither do I." He stopped, still snapped his fingers, and said, "Which reminds me." Moving quickly, Chase went to the 4 French doors that looked outside and shut the many blinds that covered them. "You never know," said Chase. "The yard falls away in the rear of the house, and these windows look out over a patio and the backyard. And you never know when some photographer is going to be lurking out there. The last thing I want is my naked ass all over the internet." "It's kind of like you're being spied on all the time, isn't it?" "And that's the story of my life." As Todd watched the star continue to strip, unbuttoning his shirt, then unzipping his jeans. So Todd started to disrobe. 2. He put down his glass of wine, pulled out his shirt tails, and thought how nobody was going to believe this. No one. A little smirk crossed his mouth. He was getting naked in that tub of boiling water with Tim Chase? Good fucking grief. Feeling like a naughty schoolboy, Todd stole a glance out of the corner of his eye and saw an incredible body, the best that Hollywood could buy. Surely sculpted by a personal trainer. Tim Chase's body was as muscular as it was lean, with every muscle on his arms defined and bulging. A beefy and taut, smooth chest and a 6-pack of muscles on his abdomen. More than a box office body, it was a muscle queen's, and Todd, who was in no shabby shape, paled in comparison. "The truth of it," said Chase as he peeled away his faded jeans, "is that it's like being in Russia or China or North Korea, with everyone spying on me, every move wanting to report this or that." Todd reached for the top button of his pants, then started to unzip. "It sounds awful." "You know what? It is." Chase was naked in a second, and Todd tried not to stare. Nevertheless, his eyes went right to the target, and he saw a bush of brown pubic hair surrounding what appeared to be not a box office larger-than-life organ, but a mere normal-sized penis. "Right," thought Todd. "He's just a guy." Yet Todd couldn't help watching as the clothless Chase placed the plate of mussels by the whirlpool, grabbed his glass of wine, then slowly descended into the hot water. Todd dropped his pants and underwear, sucked in his waist, then naked casually took his glass of wine as he approached. the mass of bubbling water. He realized Tim wasn't even looking at him. No, he was sitting deep in the water with his head leaned back against the edge and his eyes closed. So, either Todd did nothing to elicit his fantasies, he was playing it very, very cool, or Tim Chase was in fact straight. Either way, Todd instinctively understood he was about to find out. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.